Rapper from Puerto Rico, Residente, proclaims this is not America. What is he talking about in a video where over 13 million views have already been shown within 3 weeks? We're going to break it down. We have a wonderful panel. Let's do it.
5, 4, 3,
1.
Paulie back here on the channel, the Latino Slant, and it's always exciting when I get to have other Latinos from other countries to come on to a panel and discuss stuff that we have a commonality with. Let me just say also thank you guys for being here. Make sure you're subscribed. Stick around for the whole conversation. And wow, as you guys know, if you guys are keep up with my channel, I call myself Chicano, and that not only means a Mexican, descent, born and raised in the United States of America, but my certain political views tend to be more left-leaning, old school. And one of those insights for me is always knowing the history of this land and of Mexico, and this incredible song called "This Is Not America" by Residente. It sparked a lot in me, and it reminded me of a lot of things that I love talking and discussing about. So that is my insight to my little Chicanismo, and I'm gonna connect it with our Latinidad because we have wonderful people, actually 2 people from Peru hanging out with us. We have Maria and Diego. Hey,
what's up?
Oh boy.
Oli.
Oh boy. Before we start showing some of the video imagery, give me like your kind of like initial feelings after seeing and kind of reading a little bit about it, Maria.
Mixed feelings. I still have them. I'm still working on them. I can't say that like with talking like in the music industry, it is an amazing song. It has a really good beat, good stuff. He wants to portray a message that he believes in. Mm-hmm. I just can't get on board with the totality of the whole thing. I send a lot of kudos to that fellow artist. But I will break down my own thoughts. But overall, it's kind of like
feelings. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, can I get on board with this or not? So,
Diego, this is not America.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's be honest. Like, I feel this song was necessary. In many respects. One, and especially the imagery. Because unfortunately, like our countries like have had a very tumultuous history. I mean, we're one of the only few continents like in the world where they can say that an entire ethnic group was under military governments at the same time. We're talking over a dozen countries all under military governments of some sort at the same time. That's not something they can say easily, So it's like. There's that aspect of it also, and unfortunately because of that you do have to react to the brutality of it all, like how things have been and how things are, because like Maria and me, we live in Peru. We're right now going through our own political instability because we basically want to kick out our president, and so some of the imagery is things that we remember, like because we've just seen them on TV. It's a different thing for us. It's more alive in a sense, and I think that's also why for Maria it's a bit more difficult to accept it because it's so in the moment for us. I mean, the scene of the police against the people who were, en masse. That's the image that I just saw, like on Tuesday when they.
That's happening right now. Correct.
Exactly.
Right.
It is.
So it's like
it's happening.
It's a very real thing for us, and so it's a thing that's always happened in this region. We want it or not. If you go back enough, you're going to see the same things.
And depending on what group you talk to, it is happening here in the States as well. With certain groups fighting for certain causes. But you know, it's definitely interesting. Let's get into some of the imagery of it. We're not going to play. We're actually not going to play it with sound. We are going to just go jump images. Over 13 million views, guys. What does that tell you?
It's getting out there. People
Yeah.
like this song.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's resonating with a lot of people. And if you look at the comments section, that's a whole nother story. So
really fast before we get into this first lady here, you know, this is not America. I think he's talking about the United States of North America in saying, hey, you're not the only ones that call yourself Americans. We're all American. And that is something that has been lost over, you know, what now, I would say a couple of 100 years. And in today's time, that is still thought of. Maria, you had something to say about that.
Actually, yes. You know, you get to talk to people and get to know people. I've lived in several different countries, including Mexico. And well, one of the things that we kind of you could say agree upon is that when somebody says like, yeah, I'm an American, you know, you understand what they're saying. You know, they're okay, they're from the United States, but at the same time, we kind of agree, say like we're all Americans because we're literally one continent. You know, you have North America, Central America, and South America, and like for the United States to say that they're the only Americans, like, well, it's not exactly like that. You know, we're all Americans. And if you look at Mexico, it's actually the proper name would be United States of Mexico. So it's like, well, you know.
Actually, there's 3 United States. United States of Mexico, United States of America, and United States of Brazil.
Oh, yeah. Brazil also, yeah.
So, okay, well, let's get to the first. No, that's
it's
good.
Like, you're not the only ones.
So let's get to the first image, the first scenario. And it's, I didn't know who this lady was, who they're portraying, a woman with a gun. But yeah, we read that this was a freedom fighter of Puerto Rico back in the 50s, I believe.
I mean, just play it because they have to see this if they haven't seen it yet.
Well, there's not going to be any sound, so we can talk over it, which is good.
Right. So she just lets off the sound of a gun, and then
she just lets off two shots.
Two shots. Okay. And what was her name again? The real person? Lola.
Yeah.
Lolita, wasn't it?
Lolita.
Lolita.
Yeah, Lolita. Yeah.
And then right away we go into a modern times of just so much here. That was like quick imagery of kind of different.
It's more like the what's to come kind of scenario.
Right. This is what you're gonna get in the video. Right. What's to come? You're gonna get cages. You're gonna get people separated. You're gonna get different scenarios of protesters. So yeah, Diego, do you want to say anything?
I don't think that's cages. I think more it represents the fences between the fact of how, because this imagery reminds me of a fact in Lima, there's a part where the richest part of the city and the poorest part of the city are literally next to each other, and all that separates them is a wall. That's it.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. La Molina Yate.
Wow.
Lolita Lebron. That's her name.
If you guys say that again.
Maria.
Lolita Lebron is the woman that is portrayed in the video.
And we will have 2 major links in the video description. We'll have a link to this video so you can see it on your own, and then a link of an article written by a professor, and it's really great how he breaks down this article or this video. I absolutely love the imagery of the indigenous, people here in the soccer play that a little bit. And then this image of not the Lady Liberty, but of this kind of native chief. I love this, Diego. I thought that was like, wow.
I mean, and just so to put it into perspective, look at the lyrics at the moment the subtitles are on. It says, "Se robaron hasta la comida de gato y todavía se están lamiendo el plato." You know, it's they're
Right.
basically saying they took over this land, you know, and they're still hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I believe the lyrics in English are. I'm trying to look for it. So many
Somewhere in
heavy
there.
lyrics here. For a long time, when you arrived, the footprints of our shoes were already there. You stole even the cat's food, and you're still licking the plate. Wow. Wow. Well, you know, this also reminds me of just of monuments and how controversial, you know, these, you know, taking down of old monuments are in the States, of Mount Rushmore and the four presidents. And that's always been a controversial issue with the native tribe there, because that's actually sacred ground to them. And it's like you're literally, you know, you've carved, you've you know, destroyed sacred ground, which has happened all over our continent, all over this continent.
Yep.
So this image was
the thing is.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, just finish. I got a thought about that.
No. That's really it. So this image just really struck out to me as I don't know. I'm really into the imagery so far of the video. Go ahead, Maria.
The thing is that you really got to be careful because what happened back then, it had a completely different mindset. You have to think about it in context, historically speaking. You can't if we were in modern day and this was happening, like conquering stuff like it happened back then, we would obviously be jumping around saying, hey, you can't do that, you know, look what's coming to look what's happening right now, like in Russia and Ukraine, everybody's kind of jumping off, and you really don't know what to think about it. But but back then, you know, when all these conquerors came around, it was a completely different mindset. So at least in my opinion, and what I try to do is I can't judge like the actions of what happened then with my mindset. I first try to understand what happened then with their minds, and to say, well, they did this then. Let's try not to do this now because we know better. You know.
So at this point in the video, he says, in if you don't understand the fact, well, I'll throw it at you as a cumbia, bossa nova, tango, or vallenato. As
different
calablo or bamboo, highly defiant, with hot blood as Timbuktu. So I thought this was awesome. Like during the protests, you had these people dancing, and they're just looking beautiful, you know, like these very, you know, well-known, you know, Latino dances during this chaos. It's gorgeous.
I mean, again, taking a bit of modern and like more contemporary context on the fact of what's happening in my country, right? It's just the idea of like how you could have this kind of social strife, right? And you still have the vibrancy of our culture. You know, the dances are the best example, because it's not just the music. It's like it's music, and it's the moves, and it's the suit, like what they're wearing. Each one has a style and has a way of looking, and it's like that you know, duality between we are all happy-go-lucky as a group. The Latinos are, as a people, are very, you know, cheerful in that sense because we have our culture, how vibrant it is. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but the next day we can also be talking about very heavy-duty, serious problems that are happening in our country, and right now people are fighting for their rights, kind of thing.
Oh, God,
so, for what you're getting so far in this video, it's very much on the button. Is it ham-fisted yet? Is it too much for you yet, Diego? Or is it like, this is on the button.
I say this is on the button because this is the regular. It's like it's more normal for us.
And we're joined by the great Pablo of Geek Tropology, Midnight Edge Español.
Hey.
We just started breaking this down. We're so happy you could join us, senor. Let's just have you jump in. Give me your quick impressions of this song and the imagery as we started breaking down the lyrics in the video, sir.
I hate the video and I hate the lyrics. It's a call to violence, and I have been hearing this here in my country for a long time. There's a lot of people that think that they can retake from the conquistadores everything, and it doesn't work like that. What will you do with the mixed race? What will you do with the people that don't want to be part of this new idealistic world? And what will you do?
What is the idealistic world?
Okay.
First define that, right? Because you're calling an action to violence to take it over, and I mean, and that's a great question because you're basically saying you're going to have to chop off many limbs of yourself. What's growing back in those limbs besides the ideal of love and inclusivity, you know?
That's the question. What will you do with, for example, the best cardiologist on your country is white. You chop him, you get him out because he is the evil, he is the conquistador. Okay, you are one great physician less. What do you do with hospitals? What do you do with schools? How do you replace all the talent, all the people that you have lost? How do you get the system working again? Because the government needs to be back up the very next day. If not, the revolution is meaningless because people will die of hunger exactly the same.
So you're being a realist right now, modern day realist. Even though you're in Ecuador, even though Ecuador, Peru, and other Latin American countries at this moment are really dealing with real social strife.
Yeah, my sister actually was part of a rebellion against the last government, the government of Lenin Moreno. She was making food for the kids of the indigenous people. The indigenous had the whole city taken for 2 weeks, and they were giving food even to the policemen that were supposed to be there to attack them, but they were on the truce. And they received a call from one of the higher ups on the government, shoot to kill. My sister got a shot on the head. It was not direct, so she lost part of her hearing. She got her skull completely destroyed and lost the sense of smell, lost the sense of taste. It was we didn't knew about her for 4 days.
Well, we're all mixed race. We're all, so that's a complicated, factor to begin with. And what you guys are dealing with in the day to day is different than my experience. What I deal with day to day here in the States. But up until Pablo walked in, we were all like, "Oh, this is kind of on the point." And he kind of shattered our dreams there. I love it.
I still stand because
No.
that's the thing. There's a point there. The problem is that I think there's two ways to see it, and we're always going to be different on how we view it. Because the fact is, like, we have Paulie, who's a liberal, Pablo, who's more on the other side of the spectrum, and I'm who's more on the middle, who have to always be. I have some things I agree with Paulie, and there I have some things I agree with Pablo. Okay,
I'm full disclosure. I'm a libertarian. So I believe that you need to be completely free. But to be completely free, you also need to accept that other people need to be free. So you cannot take away. And part of the song is, this is our America. This is the America that we will take back. Well, take back from whom? The people that took America are dead 400 years ago.
Well, I think maybe he's speaking figuratively about a system that needs to be dismantled.
Also, consider the fact that if I'm not mistaken, he's Puerto Rican.
Right.
Yes. And I
Right.
think he's in that when he touches that sense of the song, I think it's more about the fact of Puerto Rico not being finally defining itself either as a free nation or not.
Right. Right. Let me read some more of these lyrics. Tupac is called Tupac because of Tupac Amaru of Peru.
Yep.
America isn't only the American. America isn't the only USA. This is from Tierra del Fuego to Canada. You have to be so stupid, such an airhead. It's like saying that Africa is only Morocco.
That's why
I have to agree with that.
Nuance. But I mean, that's why I say the song has more nuance than what I think. It's like, yes, he does have a part where he's says like rise to arms. I agree with Pablo in that sense, but I think he's also there is some part of it where he mentions the fact that we have to remember. It's like we say, this is America, is not just the U.S. This is America, is the entire continent. All of us, they want
for
us.
us, that's kind of old
Americans.
hat. Like we know that. But go on.
No, but
Sorry,
I mean that's
Diego.
the thing. That's the thing. He mentioned it's from Canada to Tierra del Fuego. Basically, he's saying everybody. He's not making a distinction there of saying only Latinos, only the Latino part, right? To remember that we're in the continent. He's also mentioning another part that is not even, related to us in that sense, like Canada. Okay.
Right.
So it's that aspect where he's trying to, or he puts a bit more conscious on the facts, like, remember, we are here as well.
Maria, the next part, these scoundrels forgot that the calendar they used was invented by the Mayans.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I kind of don't agree with that.
Why is that not like completely
I mean, I kind of
true?
Because we use a calendar that's based on the Julian calendar that's Roman.
Yeah, with some
Yeah,
alterations, indeed, but those alterations are minimal. If not, we should have died like 10 years
10
ago.
years ago. 10 years ago? 10 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, please.
Yeah. No, it's just that I have to agree with what Pablo says, which is why I told you guys I can't be completely on board with this song. I mean, music-wise and sound-wise, some sort of imagery, I can probably say, you know what, yeah, sure, but yeah, I mean, you can't either boil it down to America is only the ancestry. It's important in ancestry. It is. It's who we are. It's learning from those mistakes that were made in the past. Like my American history is not that great. So I'm kind of learn things, as I go by. But at the same time, you can't say, reparations. I want reparations, and we're going to take back something. It's like, no, it belongs to everybody now. It doesn't just belong to like the people, the natives that live, in the jungles of Peru. What they call los no contraídos,
Los
exactly.
no contactados.
It belongs to everybody. Los no contactados.
Yeah, actually, we have some tribes here in just the frontier with Peru and Colombia that are non-contacted tribes. So they have never had any contact, even with the tribes that have been with white men. They are completely cut. So they still live like 400, 500 years ago. There's no change. Their language has evolved in a way that we don't know. We have no idea about them whatsoever. Still, there was a time, like 5 years ago, there was a war between them, and we only found the bodies. We never, they killed each other.
So you're talking about like indigenous tribes untouched by conquistador hands. They went to war with each other?
Yeah,
they went to war. What do you mean?
Yeah.
You mean indigenous tribes go to war with each other?
Yeah, all the time. For example,
well,
the
Yeah, no,
Saraguros.
I'm with you on that. And for the record, I'm an old school liberal. I think nowadays I'm called alt right. Jesus. But you know, Maria, these problems still do happen. You know, in Mexico, with I believe the 43 or the 47 people
47.
that were, excuse me,
47.
47 students that were killed, and there was a cover up. I think he references that to, you know, to Zapatistas in Chiapas. There are recent events. What's wrong with wanting some sort of justice for that? Because
there's
obviously
nothing wrong.
Residente
It's just that violence calls
obviously
for
Residente,
violence.
right. So you're saying what Residente is calling for in action, an action to violence against this isn't the way. Is that a good simplistic?
Well, I will never be on board. Just like for the record, I will never be on board for violence. If you want a peaceful protest, I'm all for it. Just like what they did, you know, back in 1980s or 1983, they started off what they called Solidaridad, which was the Polish peaceful protest that brought down, you know, communism by itself. I'm all for that. But to protest in a way that you're waking up sticks and you're actually beating each other, I will never go for that. And there are ways to find justice. So I think they should, but picking up a machete,
right?
That's not the way.
So right
innocent people are always going to get in the way.
Yes.
Here we move to the border of Tijuana with these kind of like seemingly religious cholos with their look and the cross, and the chorus says, "We are here, we always are, we haven't left, we won't leave, we are here so that you remember. If you want it, my machete bites, we are here, we're always here." He kind of repeats itself. How much of this we'll go to Diego. How much of this is fanning the flames for a song, and how much, you know, to kind of like, you know, make the song, you know, clickbaity or just, you know, dynamic? How much of it is just that for entertainment purposes and for, you know, like some realistic takes on this, Diego?
That is very difficult to put it clearly. And the reason about it is simple. Not only because of the imagery and, for example, the mentioning of machete. The fact is that if you notice, the song tries to talk about America, right? But more than one occasion, you can see where he comes from. Like basically, his heritage and his view based on his heritage and how he tries to take the subject. The problem here is, and this is one thing I always say about music in general, music is never apolitical. Why? Because they will always have the bias of whoever writes it and whoever sings it. You'll never have an apolitical song ever, unless you have, for example, a team of writers. You have let's say, an alt-right, an alt-left, and a libertarian all together working on the song together. That's the only way you could actually have some kind of balance. And not even then, you will still have a part where it's one side, then one side, and the other. You always have that. And that's the thing. Like, I like the imagery and and parts of the message of the song, and I will never back down on that, because it is something that we live as Latinos, no matter what. I don't care what people say. But the problem is that when you have an artist that is from somewhere else that is not us, even though he mentions, for example, Tupac Amaru, right? Or he shows other imagery from other parts of the continent where he actually recognizes that Latino also means Brazilians. He doesn't just limit the idea of being just the Spanish speakers, right? Which I feel proud of that one. But the fact of the matter is, because he's not from the same place as all of us, and we can't say he has lived in the same places, you understand the context completely. Like, for example, the Tupac Amaru scene, I'll be honest, it's a very ignorant design if you see clearly what he's wearing, because Tupac Amaru was wearing 16th century clothing. Not that.
Mm-hmm.
There's actual portraits of Tupac Amaru made, like official portraits that he officially sent to be made, right? And when he was executed, he was butt naked. He wasn't even wearing anything. He wasn't given the distinction of wearing anything of the Inca culture.
Oh, please!
Wow, that's
So,
good. That's
That's
good.
the thing. And
Well,
that's the thing.
that's
He's not
Hollywood
understanding it.
production. They wanted.
I know, but that's the thing.
Yeah.
He's taking those aspects, like he's also putting other aspects into it, and where I feel his own stuff is blending into his song. And if I'm not mistaken, he's from Puerto Rico. Again,
Yes.
that's why it starts with Lolita. It doesn't start with somebody like Tupac Amaru or Mateo Pumacahua, who are some of the oldest examples of people trying to fight for rights in the colonies. Okay,
Pablo, I feel that there's a lot of self-contradiction with Residente in his message, in this imagery, you know, the whole thing with America, but then showing these very like these these men from Tijuana or the border there praying to Jesus.
Catholicism is mainly imported from Europe to Latin America.
Okay.
There were, for example, the Franciscanos, the Jesuitas. Those were sects of Catholicism that were from Europe. If you wanted the real deal, the Middle Eastern ones, we never got them until 18th century, maybe. So obviously, if we embrace Catholicism, we are not embracing something that is purely Latin American or purely indigenous. We are embracing something that is imported.
But
so
why
from
show
there,
this? I think this is I think this was a beautiful montage. I think to show these men, obviously, Mexican men, maybe even gangbangers. I don't know, just because of the look. Is he judging them? Is this a judgment, or is this celebration? Is this a celebration?
If they are gangbangers, they should be praising La Santa Muerte, because basically they jump just to keep doing what they do. So they are given to the Santa Muerte normally.
So there is some praise. There is at least a recognition of dignity here from the filmmaker and from Residente, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
But also it's quite interesting seeing how he's calling about the social issues, about poverty, about all this, while you can see his photos on the internet on a pool in a 5-star hotel, living large with a lot of women, and you are like,
well, that's rappers for you.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Now we get
more than just praising or discouraging from the religious part. I think what he's trying to do is he's portraying something that is very, very common in Latin America. Most people are, in this case, Catholic, and actually the majority of people are very religious, whether they be Catholic, Christian, or any type of derivation or whatever. So from what it derives. So more than just praising or saying, I think he's just showing off and saying, you know what, these are the people. This is it. Some people are Catholic, other people like this. The majority is Catholic, so I'll just point into that. So I never thought about it as something like he's praising or something. It's more like, okay, he's showing off something that is a reality.
I was going to say a bit of what Pablo said when he said about something that's Latino. I think that's the thing. I think when we talk about Latino, we have to bring Christianity and Catholicism into the mix. But I mean, no, it's that when you expressed it, you did it, you put it aside, like it's not from Europe, like it's not the mix, it's its own thing. But I think it's actually being Latino, Christianity is our thing. Want it or not, it's in our thing. Because like, I'll give an example of a video that I just did for Midnight in Español, where I mentioned here in Latin America, the whole Easter is holidays. We actually don't work. No matter if you're not Catholic, you don't work. Period.
But he's not pointing at that. He is pointing like we were taken our culture or values. Well, but this these are the values that replace the ones that were taken. So you are not pointing at the original, you are pointing at the second version or third version, because even
Okay, so
Catholicism has adapted a lot
okay, so
to indigenous values.
Also the fact this is where I said that I feel that also part of it blends in the fact of his point of view, not understanding, like, because like here Peru, best example I can find of syncretism of Catholicism and the Indian faith, the old pagan faith as we call it, el Inti. Because if you go and see when they have religious festivities, the virgins, they look like mountains. They don't look like the Virgin Mary or any other virgin. They actually look like bloody mountains, except they have their like the body shape, and they take them like they took the old mummies.
And here we have rituals like the Mama Negra. We have, for example, a lot of different versions of creatures from our folklore, El Diablo Uma, that are not Catholic, even against Catholicism, against Orthodox Catholicism, but have been integrated to things like La Virgen del Cisne. So if you go to the celebration of La Virgen del Cisne, you will see a Diablo Uma. You will see an altar for the Inti Raymi. It's a mixture. So it's not like it disappeared. It just blended with everything else, because that's what people do. If you are conquered, you are not just conquered. You stay with a part of yourself, but you need to adopt the newer things because, well, they were obligated to. That doesn't mean you strip away everything. You mix it. You join into whatever is coming next.
There's so much more to break down this video. We've gone for at least over 30 minutes. I encourage you guys to watch our video, to watch this music video and the link that we put in there, because I get it, right? I see a lot of what he's trying to touch upon. I don't know if I equate it to the modern day strifes. For sure in America. I don't know about Latin America, right? But I think there's a lot of fanning the flames for entertainment and for kind of like we're just as oppressed as you are. Let's get some final thoughts from our panel. Let's start with Maria. Or maybe not.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is a lot more. No, can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yep.
Internet.
You're good.
These are pressing times for internet.
Right.
So there's a lot more to be talked about. There's so much more into that. I would encourage everybody to form their own opinion about whether you're for or whether you're against this video. Like I said, I'm kind of, in between, because there's so much, like, there are a lot of people who are relatable, but at the same time, like Pablo said, this guy, he's talking about probably reparations or trying to claim something. I hope I can hear you guys can still hear me.
Yeah, you're fine.
But at the same time, he pushes, like he shows pictures of himself in beautiful hotels, saying, well, it's not really oppressed, is he?
Okay, well, thank you, Maria. Diego.
And there's some imagery.
She's on a bit of a lapse.
Termina, Maria, termina.
No, that's okay. I would love to keep talking about it, because it's like there's some images that it's not us either. It's not us. I mean, we are hot-blooded, but I mean, we're not violent. We can get passionate. Latin Americans are passionate, but do all of us end up violent, like in this video? I don't think so. No, not all of us.
Yeah, this is a very there is some graphic content in this music video. So just so you guys know, Diego.
Okay. I'm gonna piggyback on what Maria said because I'm gonna say this. It's just that the fact that I feel some things have to be that graphic in the imagery because there are some parts of our history we don't want to recognize and we have been brutal about it. Pinochet is one example. Or do I have to remember when terrorism was in our country here in Peru and how the government and the terrorists were killing innocents and burying them in common graves and things like that? Unfortunately, it's the reality of the human condition. At the end of the day, we say we can't be, but when push comes to shove, or when people go beyond the point of recognizing each other as human and lose that sense, we become that because we're humans. That's virtually the fact. And we have to, like, part of this, I feel it's good, the imagery, because it reminds us of that. And I feel more than this, than creating yourself an idea of liking or disliking the video, I say you take this as a point of origin to start thinking critically about what really is happening around you. What do you really understand? What you don't really understand? Educate yourself, as they would say, especially as Thomas Sowell would say. You gotta try to understand every part of it. It's just not one side or the other. You have to understand both sides of the argument and also like every part of the puzzle box. If you don't, you'll never have a complete view. You always have some skew to it, even though we're programmed to be skewed. And I feel like this song is skewed, yes, but it gives me enough of an idea to build upon what next. What do I have to learn about things? What is really like problems that are happening around us in the region, and what is more important for me right now, and what's important for me in the future. Try to keep that in mind. I think that's why I also it resonated with me because it made me start thinking again about certain things, especially now what's happening in the region as a whole. It's like it started making me think I got to be more critical about what I'm taking, my choices I take, and I got to talk with more people and tell them they have to start learning and start being more critical. The only way change will truly happen is that if we all, together, bring that change, even if it's one person at a time. But if we can do it, we can improve. But until we don't really become something more united, it's never going to happen. That's the matter of the fact.
Thank you, Diego. All right. Sorry you got in late, but at least you got in, Pablo. So yeah, give us some of your final thoughts on this video.
For me, this is part of the Disneyfication of our culture. That's how I call it, because there's a lot of what we are that is being transformed either to this hyper beautified version or this hyper aggressive version. There's not the reality that you see on the streets. There's not the part that you live every day. Instead, it's either sensationalized or taken away. So for example, we never learn about the generals from the indigenous people. We don't learn about their wars, the way that they fought. Uh, that's taken away to give us instead the version that they were hyper technological advanced and super progressive and everything. And it's not like that. And we need to learn from the past if we actually want to give a step to the future. And also we need to learn from what's going on. And yeah, there's people that are calling for violence because it sells. Violence sells. Violence is a good way to make something visceral that people can then consume. So this is a consumer movement, not a social movement, and we need to
Mm.
separate that. We need to integrate the realities instead of trying to make a fakery that in the end will cause more problems.
Well, I want to thank the entire panel for coming on, and I want to know what you guys think. I think what we can all take away from this is that this artist has created discussion. And a lot of music nowadays is so bland, and if you want to say Disneyfication, they really don't say anything. And even when they're trying to say something, I whenever something like this comes up, I recheck my history, and from the Olmecs to the Toltecs, they were always warring with each other. So no group of people are perfect. So this is interesting. Again, check out the whole video. I put a link to a really good article breaking it down from this professor as well. And follow everyone that's on this panel. We'll see you next time. Wherever you're at, keep your slant fuerte.
Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. The slant.
Yeah, but isn't this the unplugged version? I don't know. I think